Right now, we have with us on the line our dear friend of this program, America's Doctor, Dr. Peter Michalos. How are you, Dr. Michalos? How are you today?
Good morning, and great to be with the audience, and so much going on, and so much to do with helping protect our safety. And I think that one of the topics that we should be talking about are the building codes in California and how they need to be transformed, just like in Florida after they had major hurricanes, and they have something called the Dade County Standard of Construction, where new houses are built and they're concrete structures, poured concrete, and they use slate roofs and terracotta tiles. And guess what? Those houses don't burn, and California needs to be, it has been, but it needs to adapt more, because a lot of the houses apparently built in the 90s tend to ignite like fire sticks. And the wood construction, everybody talks about environmentalism and taking down and destroying trees. Well, they're building all these houses made out of wood and particle board, and a lot of this lumber, like CCA, this treated lumber with formaldehyde, and you see those sheets that they put on roofs and the siding, and a lot of homes, they're preserve the wood with chemicals like formaldehyde, which are known carcinogens. And guess what? When they're burning, everyone's breathing them in. And the other problem is that all these microplastics, nanoplastics, and all the particle wood furniture is made with formaldehyde, and it's all burning, and people are breathing it in. So we're going to see the effects of this fire for many, many years to come. And it's also going to start moving across the country. So don't be surprised if we start seeing the air quality, even in the Northeast and Middle America, start changing from all these wildfires. And all this Green New Deal and saving carbon footprint that they talk about, every EV, every solar panel that they've had in California the last 5 years was just negated by these wildfires that are burning 4 times the size of Manhattan. And people need to be thinking and talking about that more. And I suggest people, when they indoors, they should have a HEPA air filter in the space they sleep, and to be aware of that, because the air quality in the United States is going to be dramatically affected, just like those Canadian wildfires affected everything. And for all the listeners out there around the country, also your cars, people forget to change the cabin and carbon filter in their car, and it's better to keep your windows rolled down and let the HEPA cabin filter in your car do some of the air cleaning so it doesn't get into your lungs. And, I think that this is a good time in California for those people too. This is a good reason, other than viruses, to be wearing an N95 mask if you're going out, or if you're old, if you have lung problems. And, it's probably best that your kids don't play outdoors in this smoky air that's sucking in all these small particles, because our lungs are like vacuum cleaner bags. Some of the stuff that gets in stays in and causes damage, as we've learned after 9/11 with a lot of the people who developed severe lung problems and long-term health problems. But the building codes are something to be addressed. And also, nobody talks about the shortage of volunteer firefighters in California because of the very high cost of living. They've driven them out. They need to.
Well, they didn't just. Let me just stop you. They didn't just drive them out on that. California fired their firefighters who refused to take the COVID vaccines. They fired them.
And guess who benefited? Florida.
Yes, and who benefited?
Yep, the red states got them, because in New York, there was, just on Long Island, there were like 1,500 nurses who were told that if they don't get the shot, and guess where they went? They went to Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. And all these states benefited from all these doctors. I have a bunch of colleagues who just left New York State. It's kind of scary. On the cover of AARP magazine, which is the largest distributed publication in the country, the title says, "Where have all the doctors gone?" Because there's been a major geographical redistribution of professionals, including people like firefighters and even police. I know at least 5 NYPD people personally who now are working in the Palm Beach, Boca Raton area. They just left. So this is a problem that we have to address. And about the water distribution, they tried to save a couple of fish by diverting some water, and we ended up killing hundreds of wildlife. And how many owls were burned alive. Nobody talks about that. These are serious things. The wildlife was decimated in these areas, and it's very sad. So we need to, protect our health, and health is national security. What really scares me, imagine if we had a war and somebody dropped some napalm or a few bombs on these areas. We obviously don't have the capacity to fight wildfires, and we only have 2,000 burn beds in the entire United States. So imagine if we had a lot of people with burns, and if we had a war. We're not set up. We need to immediately start, I hope, very soon.
Well, we're too busy doing other things, Doctor. We're too busy making sure that we redress all of the harms of the past. And while our reservoirs out in California are left empty, at least they're addressing the historic social justice causes, according to their $750,000 a year water czar out there. Now, to your first point, once the fires are out, California must remove tons of dangerous debris. The toxic remnants of burned buildings around Los Angeles will require a complex and expensive mobilization. That story today in the New York Times, and it goes to some of the things that you're saying. I have to ask you this. You sent me an article earlier about Austria firefighting. What's happening in Austria? Donald Trump the other day was talking about Finland. What are they doing in Austria to fight fires?
Well, in Australia, which has some of the greatest amount of brush fires in the world, and they have they're considered the best wildfire firefighters in the world. But what they do is they have drones that fly around the forest areas and the areas prone to wildfires, and that data is transmitted with thermal cameras too. Even at night, they can spot fires, and it's constantly set to each fire station and every fire truck in real-time data. And they also have these robots that are set up around the areas remotely that can actually, they're on like little mini tractors, and they're connected to water and hoses, and they can shoot 300 feet all around and do spray like a giant lawn sprinkler, and they're in strategic areas, and they can actually move around these robots that can put out fires remotely. And they also have a nice large amount of these airplanes ready to go that are taken care of mechanically and that are operational, and they're on standby. And as soon as the drones or these remote sensors that they have all over the place, and we could set those up too, just like we have buoys that can sense things. We can have in the forest sensors like a fire detector, and even little cameras like even a Ring camera, and somebody's actually monitoring them. And as soon as you see something light up or ignite, you immediately dispatch. But the message is communication. That was the problem with 9/11. Everyone had different frequencies, different walkie-talkies. Nobody was communicating, and that's why the messages got mixed. When some people were trying to tell people to get out of the building, other people were telling them stay in the building. Same thing with these wildfires. We need real-time communication. The technology exists, and we maybe need to bring in the Australian leadership in firefighting to come to California and give them some courses and lectures on how to properly fight wildfires.
Well, you can't do it if you're cutting $18 million out of your budget. TJ looked up for me. California spent $807 million on dealing with the homeless problem. Was this Los Angeles or California? Just Los Angeles, or was this California as a state? It was Los Angeles spent $807 million on homeless issues.
Right. And within
that, while at the
same
time cutting their fire budget by $18 million and decimating the ability for California to fight these wildfires. Again, this is priorities. So a lot of it has to do not just with the technology, but the political will to actually make the right choices. And that's what we are seeing. We have a state that is making choices based on an ideology, and that ideology has failed the people of that state. Everything from what, as you said, they're releasing the water into the Pacific Ocean. Donald Trump has been talking about this for I don't know how long. Instead of diverting that water, saving that water to areas that need it. They know it's a dry state. They refuse to let people clear the brush out of areas in that state. These are things that they don't need anybody from Australia to tell them this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong.
I call it priority portfolio dysfunction, that the priorities are totally not good. And I think that equal opportunity is what needs to come back, not equal outcome. I want my pilot, I want my surgeon, I want my firefighter to all take a test, pass it, the physical, the written, and be competent. I don't care about where you're from or the color of anything. It doesn't matter. When I grew up as a kid in Brooklyn, I never, ever even thought. We never labeled people. This whole thing about labeling, this one's this one's that. We were all friends. My best friends were, now that I think back, I didn't think about it then. They were, black, Puerto Rican, Jewish, and we didn't think about that. We're just all humans, and we just have to do our best and be the best we can be. And that's what we need to start doing about. We have to stop labeling people. That divides us. We need to all get along, work together, and keep this amazing country of America great, so we can continue for our children and our grandchildren and continue to have our freedom. And also we need to take care of our health, and our health and security, and firefighting is national security, just like our healthcare system is, as we're facing all these new viruses that we're hearing about now in the news that are spreading around. And we need to immediately have a program, another program like we did with Operation Warp Speed, to start developing antivirals against these bird flus that are starting to now jump to humans. And we saw the first human death on a bird flu, and we just need to be better prepared, and we can't depend on other countries to make our antibiotics and our antivirals and the components, because one of the little tricks they do is the raw materials for medicines are coming from different countries, and then we assemble them here and we say made in USA, but we need to protect our supply chains in the coming years.
Doctor, we'll have to leave it there for now. We have so much to do with this new incoming administration. Want to have you back as soon as we can to talk about the priorities, food supply, and all of that. We got so much to talk about with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for getting the truth out always on your show.
Appreciate you.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year to you too. Dr. Peter Michalos, folks, I think he's a genius. I know you do too.